Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Great Black Speakers Podcast, where we connect through conversation. I am your host, Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers Bureau. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. Today, we have a very special guest. We're talking with Stephen M. Hughes. Stephen is the founder, excuse me, Stephen is the founder and director of program development at No Money. No Money is a nonprofit organization that helps college students think, talk, and interact with money positively. And today we're talking about how college students can avoid these money pitfalls that Stephen has made in his life to live carefree responsibly. So, Stephen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, man. Doing excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your story. So, for the audience, can you tell them what you currently do at No Money and how you've gotten to this point in your career?
Sure. So at No Money right now, as you mentioned, I'm the director of program development. So I'm creating curriculum, and during these times, there are a lot of things that are going virtual. So we're taking our live workshops and creating uh, virtual workshops, and then we're also uh, rethinking like how we create community events. And I really got into No Money just from like personal experience. I'm a first generation Jamaican American, and so both of my parents are from Jamaica, and they drilled into us that education is the thing, right? Most immigrant parents, they want you to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. I'm none of those things. So it's funny to talk to my parents about those things now, but education was a big deal in our household growing up. But we came from humble beginnings. It was 8 of us in a 3-bedroom house, sometimes 10, depending on who was here from Jamaica. And we didn't talk about financial education in our household, which I think is a lot of people's experience, right? And since we didn't talk about money outside of saying like how much we didn't have, but every now and then, like we had some challenges. The water likes to be cut off every now and then. But I took all of those experiences with me without having or talking to anybody about money to college. And I made every money mistake possible, I feel like. I had 7 maxed out credit cards. I had overdraft fees to the point they closed all of my bank accounts and told me to bounce. I had 2 repossessions because one wasn't enough, of course. I got evicted from my apartment. My credit score was a 385 at one point. And after making those mistakes, like mistake after mistake, I asked a mentor of mine, like, hey, what's something I can do to kind of get things back on track? And he gave me a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And, I'm a music fanatic. Like I listen to a lot of reggae music, rap, hip hop, R&B. And so I love the stories. And the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, was just a book full of stories about money principles. And so it kind of helped me start turning the corner. But I went to a financial education workshop, or at least that's how it was marketed. And when I walked in, it was just a bunch of old white men talking about HELOC mortgages at a time that I didn't even know what a regular mortgage was. So I was like, well, there's got to be a better way to understand money. And when I started sharing my mistakes with people and how I fixed them, more and more people started asking me questions. And so I started No Money, which is spelled KNOW, because I know some people are like, how you going to teach me about money if you ain't got no money? But I started No Money in 2014. And since then, we've been helping college students all across the country, manage their money, maintain their money, and just figure out how to grow it once they leave school.
Well, let's talk about your mistakes then. So, what were you buying to get a 385 credit score, to get 2 repossessions, and 7 closed out or maxed out credit cards? Like, what were you balling on?
So it's crazy. Like when I first started getting the credit cards, like really I didn't understand how I was getting the credit cards until they started hitting my mailbox. Because at the beginning of school back then, like they would have welcome back festivals, and there were credit card companies just kind of lining the library bridge with all these giveaways, like free T-shirt, free sub, free pizza. And I'm a hungry freshman, so I'm signing up for everything. And like 3 weeks later, these cards start coming in the mail to my house. And so the first one that I got, and I remember when I was younger, my parents would always tell me, hey, stay away from credit cards. But a lot of the like general financial education doesn't land. So when you tell somebody to budget, when you tell somebody, hey, you should save, like people don't start saving because they don't know where to start. So I didn't know really where to start when it came to avoiding credit cards. And the first one I had, it was like $1,000 Discover card. And I decided, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to use this for emergencies. But when you're in college, like everything's an emergency when you ain't got no money. So I started swiping, and then the other cards kind of started. I started swiping there, and then statements started coming in. Man, I was like, dang. So I just need to pay $25. Okay, cool. And it was all well and good until I wasn't working as much as I was before. And so really, it wasn't even that I was buying a bunch of crazy things. It was that like everyday purchases were adding up, and then even with like my car, the one of them that got repaired, repossessed. I asked them to repossess it because I was like, hey, I can't fix it. My credit card's maxed out, and I was using that for for car services. And I remember like my transmission went out, and it was a Mazda 626, and like the repair was like 400 and some change. And I was like, man, forget it. Like, come and get this car, y'all. And so when I wasn't paying those credit cards, they ended up closing the accounts. And so, as you know, my credit score kept getting punched in the face with every closed account. And that's how I ended up with a sub 400 credit score.
What year was this when all of this was happening?
So I started college in 2005. And so this happened throughout me being in college. So from 2005 through 2010, I dropped out in 2010 just because I couldn't get any more loans to go back to school and finish. And I didn't have the money to finish. But I ended up going back to school in 2017 and graduating.
Got you. So let's talk about that then in terms of the comeback. We heard the punches in the face. I don't know if you say, publicly, what your credit score is now or the range, that type of thing, but what were you able to bounce back to? What are you able to accomplish, from a personal level?
For sure. So like when I really started paying attention to it, I jumped my credit score 156 points. Right. And then now I'm staring 760 in the face. Like I'm trying to get there as fast as possible because I hear things are unlocked for you once you hit that specific number. But yeah, that's how I bounced back. And really the bounce back was me deciding what I was going to focus on when it came to knocking out the debt. And, following some measures that a lot of credit repair, I guess, analysts and professionals will tell you, like, dispute any misspellings of your name, dispute any addresses that aren't yours or current, and kind of going down the track for that.
Got you. So you bounced from a 385 to approaching 760. What has that done, I guess, for you in terms of, I guess, opportunities financially?
That's a good question. So I think that in regards to credit scores, I don't know how many opportunities I've had like business wise that's helped with, but I can tell you that when I didn't have a good credit score, I was paying rent to at my landlord who there's one day that he thought that we weren't home. He was fixing something in the ceiling, and my girlfriend was home, and he said something like, I can't wait till these N words move out. And I was like, well, I got to stop paying this man this money. Like, I'm not trying to line this man's pockets at all. But at the time, like I didn't have a high enough credit score to really move somewhere that I wanted to move. And so when I started focusing on knocking out my debt and really repairing my credit, it's put me in a place where I can live where I want to live. Like even now, I live in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina, and I live downtown, and I'm near everything that I want to be, and I'm paying what I want. Like my rent's only $900, and so I think that getting to the credit score wasn't as important as building the habits that have improved the credit score.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit too, because I agree with you as well. in terms of credit is used for things like, of course, credit cards, your access to capital if you're going for bank loans, purchasing a house, even getting rent, paying rent, in an apartment. They look at your credit score for something like that as well, right? So it really limits your opportunity if you didn't take care of, I guess, that financial asset. Even if you aren't using your credit, having access to credit can really go a long way, especially if things get tough as well, right? So I want to talk a little bit about the habits, though, right? So the habits that that were formed to get you out of debt and to get you on the pathway to good credit. Because a lot of people out there would be embarrassed by a 385 credit score. So I guess this is a two-part question. What would you say to that person who has a sub 400 credit score, and then what would you tell them in terms of habits that they need to develop to really make that change and that switch in life?
So the first thing that I would tell someone with like a sub 400 credit score is that I've been there. One, two, it's fixable, and three, it just takes a plan, right? And so for me, like building some action steps, like I live my life by three words, and it's action cures all. And so when I decided, like, all right, well, I need to make a plan to even get my credit score from a 385 to a 500. I think that was my first goal. And that's where it started, like creating financial goals that I could actually see. Because as I mentioned before, I think oftentimes money advice is very general, but personal finance is called personal finance because it's personal. So it has to be specific to you. And if you don't create your own financial goals, like no one cares more about your money than you do. And so until I kind of put that bullseye on the dartboard for myself to say, this is what I want to go after, this is what I want to see, then I was able to create a plan to say, all right, well, how do I get to this 500 credit score? Or how do I save this $25,000 to invest in these companies? Or how, and so that's really where it started, like deciding that I was going to set some financial goals and then figuring out how to set the financial goals to even start digging myself out. Because even now, the work that I'm on one, and sometimes I'll work with somebody who's making $50,000 a year. Sometimes I'll work with someone who's making $50,000 a month. But if they don't have financial goals, it's like the money management thing is the hardest thing for them, no matter how much money they're making. And so I think that for anybody, no matter what your credit score is right now, but especially if you're under 400, like let's create some financial goals that you want to see, and then let's work towards those financial goals because it's fixable.
Got you. We're here with Stephen M. Hughes. Stephen is the founder and director of program development at No Money. That's KNOW Money. And you can find out more about him at nomoney.org, KNOW money.org. Today, we're talking about, No Money is a nonprofit organization that helps college students think, talk, and interact with money positively. And today, we're talking about how college students and young people can avoid certain mistakes and pitfalls to live a carefree life responsibly. So if you guys like this video, please go ahead and show us some love by pressing the thumbs up button. Please share and also subscribe to the Black Financial channel to receive more Black financial content like what we're producing here today with Stephen. Stephen, let's talk about just your first day as an adult, right? Or your first day of college, that type of thing, when you're just young. So whether you went to college or not, or going to college or not, what should that first day look like from a money management standpoint?
I think that the first day of college is just really getting settled in. And I think sometimes, even when we start something new, we don't give ourselves enough grace to settle in a little bit before we start making some moves and plans. And there's no way to make a plan until you kind of take inventory of what's going on, what's new with your environment or your situation, like whether it's embarking on a new job or starting college, or if whatever it is that's new, you have to kind of stop and take inventory of what's going on for a second before you can start making some plans. But so that's the first thing. Anybody who's in college, I think that you should take like the first few days, because you got these welcome back festivals, you got these welcome back parties, you got all these things going on. Or if you're starting a new job, the first 2 days you're knocking out paperwork, you're still trying to remember the name of your boss. You're trying to figure out who you're working with and who you should lean on, and who you can help. And so until you know that, like after the first few days, then you can sit down and create a plan to say like, all right, well, now it's time to knock out these goals. I'm going to write down these 3 things that I want to accomplish in maybe the next 90 days and start from there. Because there's so many things that can change in 3 months. Like we've seen that even with the pandemic right now. And so I think that as long as people give themselves some grace to say, all right, this is definitely something new, uncharted waters. I need to figure out like where I'm at, what's going on, and then, we can go from there.
Got it. Let's talk about parents. What should they be telling their children about money when they are in, let's say, high school and middle school? And then how does that transition look like when those children actually become officially adults when they're 18 years old?
And I love this question because I think that a lot of parents that I talk to these days, they say that they don't know what to say to their student and then or their child, or they'll say that they don't know um, like how to teach them about money. And the perfect place to start is just with the experiences, because with money, like money things, the 3 ways that you create your money habits is from picking up the things that you heard when you were a kid, the things that you saw when you were a kid, and then the things that you experienced when you were younger. And so if you don't have any experiences with money except from like a kind of an outside looking in situation for your parents, because they're telling you like, oh, don't worry about the money. You got a roof over your head. There's clothes on your back, food on the table, like things that a lot of us heard when we were growing up. Then you may not have the experiences to even go off of when you get to college or when you start your first job. So for parents who are out here trying to figure out like, hey, what should I teach my student or what should I tell my child about money? Just show them what you're doing with money. And then they'll start asking questions and you can lead from there to say, okay, I can explain this, or I may need to bring in some reinforcements. Like I need to get on a website and get my child on a website so they understand better. Or maybe I need to talk to my friend who owns a business because my child is asking me questions about like how these things are getting paid or who's paying the check to me to even pay these bills. So I think starting there is a powerful place. And I think it's a place that a lot of parents like overlook because we're so in our head about trying to teach or giving our kids like more information than we had or a better start than we had, that you don't even look to say like, oh, we can start here and just show you what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong.
I love that. I love that because I guess as a new parent, I'm even thinking about that, 15 years from now or 10 years from now, or just what habits financially should I be teaching, Amina? Actually, that's a good question I should ask you from a parent perspective. What are the habits that I should be teaching, my child when they're 10 years old or, 12 or 8 or even however old, um, that they can take with them the rest of their life just by, looking at me, that type of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that kids start grasping money ideals and principles like around the age of 2. And so I think about like my nephew, right? Whenever I see him and I give him some money, he takes it and he is super excited about running upstairs to his bedroom and stuffing the money into the big piggy bank that he has in his corner of his room. And I think that like as your daughter grows, like you want to really focus on. So there are 3 money rules that like I think are super important, and it's really, or how you should manage your money is saving some, spending some, and sharing some, right? Like you may have heard that, because as adults we don't do those things when it comes to money management. Like we like for people who are religious, they may tithe to their church, but they don't have like a specific amount of money that they decide, oh, okay, this is what's going to go out, or maybe it's 10%. And then for saving, I think that's an afterthought for a lot of us. And so if you just have that on the forefront, like for me, the way that I manage my money is that I have a few different accounts and the money goes into the accounts it's supposed to go into. And so I know if I'm going to go out to eat, there's a specific debit card from my effort fund that I use. And if there's no money in that account, then ain't going out to eat. It ain't happening, right? And so I think that from a young age, if you can feel that and see that and start getting that experience, like, oh, this isn't money that I can use to buy a toy or to go, back to school shopping or to invest in a lemonade stand. This is money that has to be saved as I continue to save. Or this is money that I can share and give to my favorite nonprofit or cause as a 2-year-old. You know what I mean? I think that just instilling those things in her will help a long way, because as she gets a foundation, right? Because a lot of us, like adults, we're working from a place of lack, or we're working from a place of we need to correct things. So I have 3 money rules for that. But as a kid, like those 3 things will definitely help.
Love it, love it. So once again, we're here with Stephen M. Hughes. Stephen is the founder and director of program development at No Money, KNOW Money, and that's knowmoney.org. It's an organization, a nonprofit organization that helps college students think, talk, and interact with money positively. And today we're talking about how college students and young people in general can avoid money pitfalls to live carefree responsibly. If you guys like this video, go ahead and press the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe as well. So let's see, we have a comment or a question from the audience. I am Chris Norwood wants to know, just started watching. How long did it take you, Stephen, to go from a 300 sub 400 credit score to a 760 credit score using your methods?
So I'm still trying to get to the 760. Like I need to look at my credit score now to see like how many points I'm away. But I remember I mentioned that when I was at a 385, I was trying to get to a 500 as fast as possible, and that happened in 3 months. Just focusing on like, okay, well, what is it that goes into a credit score? Okay, it's payment history. It's like the amount of credit that I have available. It's the credits, the accounts that I have as far as like the mix and things like that. But I knew that the 2 things that I could really focus on were my payment history and the credit that I had available. And since everything was like maxed out, I just started tearing that down. And it happened fairly quickly after I started picking up some ideas as far as how do people repair their credit. Like I'm someone who went to did the Lexington law route, and it only went up 60 points. And I was so mad because I spent like $1,000 to Lexington law. So shout out to the folks who went through the Lexington law process and still had to, try to figure out how to fix their credit. But that's the boat that I was in. And so that's a great question, Chris. I think that it also depends on what's on your credit report. So if you and mind you, I say credit report and not score, because if you don't know what's on your credit report, then you're not going to know what your score is. It's just like tasting something and asking somebody like, oh, well, give me the recipe. Like you won't know how it tasted that way until you see the recipe. And your credit score is a recipe like baked out from your credit report. And until you look at your credit report, and you can go to annualcreditreport.com and pull a free credit report for yourself, Chris. But until you see your credit report and can look at it and say, hey, this isn't supposed to be on here. This isn't supposed to be on here. They spelled my name wrong. This address isn't mine. Then you may not have a leg to stand on or a place to start. So that's really where you should start. And then, sky's the limit from there.
Love it. So my last question to you, actually, before I even get to my last question, let me make sure let me see if there's any other questions in chat. No. So how can people get in touch with you? And do you have any current offers or anything that you're promoting right now?
So people can get in touch with me through our website. It's knowmoney.org, or they can send me an email directly. It's Stephen@knowmoney.org. They can also hit me up on social media. I'm No Money Steve. That's KNOWMONEYSTEVE. Or they can follow our organization, No Money Inc. It's KNOWMONEYINC. I think that the best way for people to get in touch with me, if they have like specific questions, is to either send me a message via email or Instagram, or in my Instagram bio, they can book like a free 20-minute call where I can just talk to them about their money. And I don't have any specific offers that I have right now. No Money is a growing organization, so feel free to donate if you want to see a world where young adults are empowered financially and can leave college feeling good about how they can make money decisions. I think that might be the only thing I can offer y'all right now. But outside of that, man, this has been fun.
Perfect, man. Yeah, so please hit up Steven. My last question always is, what's your best piece of advice for a college student, young person who just wants to make good financial decisions? What would you tell them?
So my best advice for a college student or young person who wants to make good financial decisions is to, it's like the 3 money rules that I live my life by now. And that is stabilize yourself. You like stabilize your money. I'm not talking about your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your friend's money. I'm talking about your money. Stabilize that money first, and then build money habits that will sustain those, like creating a spending plan, because I hate the word budget, or finding ways to knock out your debt. And the third thing is to stack some money. So not only save with a goal, like your first goal should be to save $1,000 to the side and build your emergency fund to 6 months. And I know 6 months is a crazy number when it comes to 6 months of your income or your expenses, but there's levels to this. That's why you have to start at 1,000 and then go to 2,000 and then go to a month's worth of expenses and kind of go from there. But just remember those 3 money rules: stabilize, sustain, and stack. And you can kind of weave your way in and out no matter where you are in your financial life.
Wonderful. Today we've been here with Stephen M. Hughes. Stephen is the founder and director of program development at No Money. No Money is a nonprofit organization that helps college students think, talk, and interact with money positively. And you can learn more about Stephen at KNOW, money.org. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being my guest today. And on behalf of Stephen, please like this video. First of all, please like, share, and subscribe to the Black Financial Channel. And on behalf of Stephen Hughes, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.